Welcome back to Infinite Geek Talk, an ongoing conversation between your hosts, former DC Comics editor and owner of Infinite Heroes in Watertown, Connecticut, Paul Santos, who is joined by Keith Field, co-founder of Gorilla Valley Games and the owner of Rat's Nest Studios. Let's listen in.
What's that? Myself and one of my more questionable chums, we went to the local movie house in Waterbury. The hideous Regal located in the mall.
Soon to be bankrupt. Or
Yeah,
is
soon to
filing,
be bankrupt.
filing for bankruptcy or something.
Bad scene, man.
Yeah.
Bad scene. Limeys. So anyway, that was your unexpected racism against the English.
Yes.
Brought to you by Infinite Geek Talk. No, myself and a buddy, we went and saw a film franchise that I believe I wouldn't have had many opportunities to see in the theater, but never had till this past Friday. I speak, of course, of Dragon Ball Super: Superheroes. Have you seen it yet, Paul?
No, I should be going this week, hopefully.
Ah, very good.
Fingers crossed.
I didn't want it to pass you by. I know you're a true Dragon Ball fan, as opposed to a fair weather one like myself. I'm more of a fan of Mr. Toriyama than any of the specifics of Dragon Ball.
I mean, I like Toriyama a lot too. Just Dragon Ball. It hits maybe because it was when I was younger. It's the only anime I remember being on all the time.
Yep.
You know, from Dragon Ball to then Dragon Ball Z.
Yep.
And then when I was in college, I believe Adult Swim said, "F it, we're playing all Dragon Ball Z."
Yes, they did.
So that was cool.
I tried, Paul. I tried, and it was little Goku, and he's training in that sphere that's hurtling through the universe. And after 2 weeks of watching that happen, Paul, I couldn't go on.
It's hard because even
fair weather fan resulted.
Even Adult Swim would they'd have to put at least 2 episodes back to back because of all the filler.
Right.
And I do recommend, it's one of my biggest regrets, but I will not go back and buy it physically. The Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z uncensored stuff.
That would be boss to have.
Great, and it's not like what anyone's thinking. It's not like X-rated. It just has more violence.
Seeing it as it's intended is always preferable.
Yeah, and the dialogue is different. There's no like, I will destroy you. It's more like, I will kill you. You know, stuff like that. Although,
because that's the thing that makes it for me. I mean, even given the fact that I don't have that same level of intimacy, that which I have consumed, it's that idea of, and you had started to say it there, and you know, I understand that this is its big selling point, the weird, not patchwork, but the weird balanced world they've created for these characters,
right?
In which, you know, heaven and hell aren't endpoints. You know,
it's great.
You know, just as one example, that you're driving around in your little car in a modern feeling setting, even though this is happening in a future that will never be, / the past. You know, you can it's the case of having your cake and eat it too through variety, and somehow it works perfectly. It's delightful.
Yeah, I like it. I know there's some, like, obviously with Dragon Ball, not again on a Dragon Ball rant, but Dragon Ball I think is pretty good in that it has a lot more in its universe than just like one gimmick. I know the fighting is a thing, but there's a lot of different.
Oh, there's tons of world building.
Like there's demons and robots and aliens,
gods.
Now
supervillains.
Right,
you know, it's all out there.
Now plot wise, yes, Toriyama isn't the best. He forgets things.
Sure. He doesn't care about the sanctity of plot, so he'll happily retcon things left and right.
Right, and he'll just level characters up to match whatever. So that's the. I think the one major flaw of Dragon Ball, but if you look past that, I think it's great.
And that's my thing, is that, you know, those are the flaws of Dragon Ball, and I will suggest that you will see some of those notes hit in the movie. But I will offer that the world's reaction is a little too edgelord for me, because it's you know, most of the people I'm talking to are giving it kind of like sneers or like, yeah, good enough, but I had none of that. I was this was an exceptional trip to the movies.
You know, these are the people who are like, Broly could kill Superman with one hand behind his back, and it's all these
that's
like.
That's the satisfying thing about being a fair weather.
It's crazy.
I can just judge it as a movie, and as a movie, thumbs up.
Right. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, we're going this week. Me and some old friends of mine.
Nice.
They don't blow me off.
You better not. You'll break his little heart. You terrible old friends.
They're terrible. They really
Stand
are.
up and be counted for our little Paulito.
Having children really just destroys your social life.
It's true. I mean, one of the many accolades on the path of Kithinicus is glory to the parent who knows
Right.
that your child is unwanted and unwelcome. Let the sun consume the lies of the past. Let our futures be single adults making their way to Dragon Ball motion pictures.
Right.
So speaketh the Keith. Glory to his name.
But yeah, no, hopefully I'll see it soon. You ever play those Dragon Ball games? They're
I have.
ridiculously hard. Some of them are very hard.
Yes, now I owned forever and ever until I voyaged to a land called South Dakota for the last time. One of my proudest holdovers from my 8-bit Nintendo was, of course, the Dragon Ball Nintendo game.
Oh, man. Oh, the Nintendo game?
The Nintendo game.
That was not... It wasn't called Dragon Ball, right? It was Dragon...
It was called Dragon Power.
Power, yes.
And I can tell you that I played through the first hour or so with a friend. We had rented it from a local video shoppy. The one that we referred to as Mama Video. A tale for another day. We had gone to Mama Video on a Saturday morning. We had rented a stack of games that included Dragon Power. We brought it home. It was madness.
Oh, yeah.
Top-down RPG elements, sort of like a shabbily coded Zelda, but filled with dialogue because this is Dragon Ball.
Right.
So when they meet Master Roshi, excuse me, I said Yoshi, Nintendo, for the first time, and Goku and Nora walk into his cave, you're forcing your way, you're hitting that A button, getting through the dialogue. They're looking for Dragon Balls. And okay, we can use Dragon Radar. And there's a whole sequence where they activate the Dragon Radar. They're talking to the old Meister, and he explains that he will help them only if she goes out into the world and recovers sandwiches for him.
Right.
Because, of course, those sandwiches, if they were inverted to their proper Japanese direction, would be pairs of panties.
Right. I thought they were...
Because the whole thing was you were collecting panties to bring back to him because he was an old pervert.
I thought they were pizzas, but I think you're right. They were sandwiches.
It was sandwiches,
they were like
trust me.
triangles, yeah.
Because myself and the chum that I'd rented with, we sat there repeating those words over and over again pretty much all night long. Okay, we'll use Dragon Radar. And then the bit about the sandwiches that look like panties.
Nice.
So there you go. That was my one game that I actually owned. But yeah, they're all super duper dumb hard.
Yeah, I played and beat the first Dragon Power.
Good. You collected the panties. Good
it
work.
only goes. It's basically just the first saga. Pilaf, Emperor Pilaf.
Correct.
Saga.
Yes.
And then I think he turns into the monkey, and then it's over. Then the game just ends. And
Narratively, it's brilliant. You know, if you're going to have a first game.
But a very awkward, like you said, like a top-down action.
Sloppy.
Yeah.
Very blinky. You know, they didn't bother with death animations for a lot of the mobs.
Yeah.
So ultimately, nothing we can love. But
I'm talking about like what is it?
You're talking about all of these rotoscoped later games.
No,
yes.
well, like not the newest ones, but like the PS1 or PS2 games that are, I think, I'm not good at fighting games, so take that with a grain of salt. I think they're impossible. Like, they are like Budokai or whatever, all those, like, they are impossible games for me.
I have never played that era of games. I've only played the modern ones. I thought that's what you were bringing us around to.
Imagine like a Marvel vs. Capcom game where there's fighting in the air, but you're actually moving to different levels.
Right.
And for me, it's very, very difficult. I played the newer one.
That's right.
Where they
started like those rotoscopy story-based fighters.
The story-based ones are great. But the Budokai Super Challenge Mega Tournament 74 is impossible for me. I think for any casual gamer, it's very difficult.
But you are no casual gamer because I seem to remember you making the wild claim that you have played every Nintendo game ever conceived of by our brothers and sisters of the far kingdom of the East.
It's not that hard.
Was not hyperbole. Now listen.
I've not beaten all of them.
I know you haven't, Paul. That's why you're still sitting here not rocketing into the sun. Now listen to me. I've had a lot of questions from our fan base over the course of the weekend.
Sweet.
Wanting to hear my Paul qualify this wild statement. Now, you know I trust every word that leaves your perfect little mouth. But that is not the case for the unwashed masses.
Yep.
One of these unwashed masses, this is a softball of an inquiry.
Right.
That would be someone you know. That would be the kid, Gordon. Sweet Gordon,
nice.
my partner in the founding of Gorilla City. And the mighty valley that contains it.
Yes.
Our stewards, Crank and Grod, salute us from their ape thrones. Now, he has asked on to me, is there any chance what Paul meant to say was that he's beaten every game that Nintendo was the publisher of?
So
I said, no, I said from context, I'd say no. But I'll bring that to the master and see what his response is. Paul, your response.
So again, I know it might be miscommunicated. I have played every NES game.
I think this is understood.
I am trying to beat all of them, and I am up to the letter K.
I will point out I have in no way allowed anyone to leave any of the exchanges of these qualifying inquiries under the impression that you ever suggested you've beaten them all. So I was there for you, boss.
Yes, thank you.
Fear not. So we'll dispense with that right off the bat.
And before anybody, yes, I am using emulations. I'm not.
That is understood as well.
I'm not I'm using save states.
This is not a King of Kong situation.
No,
we are not suggesting that he is.
I'm using save states because I'm not a madman.
Some sort of tesseract that he is building a Wonder arcade within. All right.
And I'm using FAQs. I'm not using.
I find that adorable, and it led me to a question that I was too stoned to bring up last week.
Okay.
And it's this.
Okay.
It's not a challenge. It is not a search for inconsistency.
Yep.
It is an honest philosophical query.
Yep.
And it is this. I was thinking that spiritually, what you're doing is very similar to any number of the weird video game projects I've taken on over the course of years. Would it be any less satisfying to just make your project watch a playthrough of every Nintendo game? And I mean this seriously. If you are willing to use things like save states and guides.
No.
Only because of that do I ask that question.
Okay, so
Paul,
I will answer.
Debate against
I
it.
will debate against that.
Yes.
With save states, you're still
you're playing.
You're still playing, and save states are in an invincibility code, right? It's
Correct.
like you have to make that jump.
Of course.
Or you have to beat that boss. And I'm not one of these crazy people who are like, I hit a boss, I hit the save state. You know what I mean? I don't do. That's not like I hit the boss at the save state. You know, like I'm actually trying to beat it skill-wise. And same thing with FAQs.
Hello, fellow content creators. If you train a camera on your video game in the way of being a content creator on the YouTubes, what Paul is discussing is the first of what I'm sure are many proofs as to why you should not be thinking you have a unique voice to share with the universe.
Yes. Yeah.
That's not how you play a damn game.
And I don't want. And if you watch,
even with a save state,
right?
That is madness
and
beyond all defense.
And I think playthroughs, even with the NES stuff, it's just it's NES, so half of the fun is playing it because it's so simplistic.
All right, that's an answer.
You know,
I could see someone changing my mind on that point.
Sure,
and I would find it useless to do.
Right,
you know, I would definitely, as you suggest, want to play every game.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I would want to play it. And then
but for me, there are exceptions. It's like, yeah, I could play through one season of a sports game, and to me, I'm not really going to be gaining much as that goes on, unless it is somehow a fantasy sports game where I know at the end of it, there's a three-headed gorilla with a chainsaw waiting to block me as the last goalie in whatever the hell games have goalies
I will say, out of all sports games,
I would play the three-headed gorilla goalie.
The NES games that the sports games I like the best on Nintendo are baseball games.
Really?
I like because it's an easy game to play through once you figure out your pitching and hitting.
I was just going to ask you if you had ever played Nintendo Baseball, but of course you have.
Oh, I
played
have. Yes,
every
I
game.
played all the Bs. Yeah,
Nintendo Baseball was a game that got a tremendous amount of play in the Keith house.
Oh, nice.
I used to say the Keith family house or something along those lines, but I was raised by monsters. So, no, the Keith house saw baseball a lot because it didn't matter which of the monster people in my family were about and potentially playing. You needed no skill to play that game. It was the ultimate Zen game. I don't know if it intended it or not, because, you know, it basically, when the ball was hit, the game would decide which players got a chance to react to it.
Yes.
And they didn't react by controlling the individual players. You just sort of used the NES cross to initiate momentum in this confused gang that were operating on something that might have been described as AI.
But I like baseball.
In the same way that a mushroom sometimes knows which ways to sway in a breeze.
Right. Like I like baseball. Bases Loaded. I thought was fun.
Well, sure, those are real games.
I will say the worst sports type games, which is kind of funny and ironic, is all the soccer games for the NES suck.
Oh, no bueno.
They suck.
Aki.
They are the worst.
Aki.
Oh, God. They are so bad.
No, see, I grew up in Naugatuck, so in a
That's
show
good
of
accent.
defiance.
That's a good accent.
in the show of defiance, I avoided anything resembling soccer. Just to chide my Portuguese slaves.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But NES soccer is terrible. Terrible. All of them.
Wait a minute, Paul. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I don't doubt that it was terrible, but I'm realizing now there are certain games that, when I've said to others, have you ever played this? The answer has been a stupefied glare. Now, honestly, I can ask you some of these games, and you're going to be able to say you have at least looked at them, and that will be more than I've gotten out of decades of fair weather idiots.
Yeah.
Paul, oh God, this is such an exciting moment. Paul, did you ever play Fester's Quest?
Yes.
What did you think of Fester's Quest?
I don't think it gets way too much hate for a lot of the crappy games I've played.
Thank you.
But that being said, I vaguely remember needing to look at the FAQ for some reason.
This does not surprise me. It's all right.
I got stuck at something where I'm like, I have no idea what to do now.
Well, here's what I will say. The talk of Fester's Quest leads to a larger and more important topic. But I will say that Fester's Quest is one of my favorite games of all time.
Oh, that's funny.
And I am one of the 14 individuals who have thus far not been allowed to become CIA assassins, snipers mostly, for whatever political reasons. I don't know what the problem was, frankly. Who not only beat that game unassisted without any outside aid.
Oh, yeah.
But I will make this statement, the one that humanizes me. I don't believe I've ever wept so openly at the end sequence of a game as I have at the end of Fester's Quest. It is the same still shot of the Addams family that you have seen parceled out over the course of the entire game. They've been placed in the middle of the screen. Nondescript crowd has been spawned around
You're
them.
right, yeah.
It's a frozen image. A weird, lilting version of the Addams Family music plays, and these badly rendered, upraised fists materialize in the crowd as if to show an almost fascist power salute.
Yeah.
To the Addams Family. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
We have a sound guy. He'll figure it out. I don't know how he's going to manifest the fists, but, you know. And as I sat there, my eyes began to water. So I realized I'd given away a chunk of my soul to this game.
Oh yeah, NES games from back in the day. You really get mad at how much time you spend on them.
And my eyes watered, realizing I'd gotten something back 10 times more beautiful than I ever could have imagined. No, I tease. But the larger takeaway was that it was the most recent of its day. That's what useless statement, isn't it? Treasure released by my favorite third party that wasn't Capcom. I refer to the big number 2, Sunsoft. Sunsoft was the man on the 8-bit Nintendo.
Oh, you're gonna get some angry emails for that one.
We got the Fester's Quest. Paul, talk to me about the original Master Blaster, the next of the Sunsoft miracle angel baby children that makes me love them more than anything.
Blast Master?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a very good game.
Surprisingly, now it's got a bit more visibility because it's one of those games that, in retrospect, folks were guided toward.
Oh, you know what? Another fun thing that I'll throw in too. This is also over the years.
Yep.
There's a surprising amount of NES properties that have at one point gotten remakes or sequels.
Sure.
And Blaster Master is one of them.
That was the first game I beat on my Switch.
Yeah,
I downloaded the Blaster Master
I
X.
like seeing that because I remember being in high school when the Super NES came out. I started getting annoyed that certain games were not showing up on the NES. Where I'm like, well, what's happening? I thought we were getting all super versions of stuff.
Right.
And Sunsoft games, especially, a lot of them, it took years.
Yep.
I mean, like current
to
era.
see Blaster Master came back was just such
great.
a happy thing.
Batman's great, right? They did the first.
We actually talked a lot about Batman in the Game Boy version of
the
Same.
Yeah, the NES.
So we'll dodge that a little bit. But I didn't realize, and I'll ask this of you, there was apparently a sequel to Batman.
Revenge of the Joker?
And I never played that.
Oh, it's great. It's better.
Tell me of it. Does it have that same weird, neat, alien Japanese feel?
Yeah, it does, and it's more.
Oh my god! Then why did I never play it?
It's
Paul?
later. It's later in the system too, so the graphics are better.
Now I'm getting so sad.
They're larger sprites.
Well, now I got to play this, and I don't believe in your emulators. Come on, Nintendo Virtual Console.
No, you got to. So Paul's going to tell you a hard truth about corporations and
Truth's
economics.
Caused me great tears.
And Nintendo
real ones, not Fester's Quest tears.
It's been we are like 40 years since the NES came out almost.
That sounds about right.
They're never ever going to put every game on any Nintendo library.
Sure they will. They love opening the vaults.
No, but they have
Why
to
do you
pay...
think I'm so awash with options to legitimately play old Game Boy games?
But they have to...
Ooh, I love the way they've doused me in every game. They could easily have hosted on day effing one of the virtual store.
Well, because they have to share the money with all these third-party publishers.
And we were talking about that
problem.
recently. The bit about those cabinets that you can buy at Walmart for $5 million.
Yeah, they just paid the rights holders. That's it. But Nintendo's like
Marvel Capcom.
Nintendo's just like, oh, we're a broke Japanese company. We don't have money to give you. What's that Simpsons joke with? Is it Burns? I'm just a simple owner of a power plant, and there's all this money.
The treasure pours through the ceiling.
Yeah.
Well, as you can clearly see, this place is falling apart around me.
Oh man, I have to go back and watch more Simpsons. But yes, that's how Nintendo acts. And I do get a little bit of sympathy that some of these defunct companies, I don't know if there is a person that you hand money to.
Yes. Well, that's the thing, right? There's got to be some sort of trust that led to someone holding rights. Otherwise, it'd be in the public domain, and then I'm going to release my Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
So they do expire after a certain amount of time.
Sure.
But I think, though, you can't because Nintendo still shares the rights.
Sure.
So even though the company people lose the rights,
is that how it works?
I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Okay.
I'm sure someone will yell at me in the emails and say I'm wrong, but yeah, I believe that's how it is. Vague, and then again, this layman.
Oh, this was the last of the hits.
Oh yes,
pornographic games, Paul.
Oh yeah,
because there's lots of pornographic games.
Yes, I am a student of art, so
it's why we're friends.
Yeah.
You know, you can tolerate the fact that. I wear pornography like a cloak.
Yeah.
It does make some folks squeamish.
It is fascinating that there's not as many as people think, because people talk about the porn games, but there aren't that many.
And you did specifically qualify this. Paul is making his project the U.S. releases.
Unlicensed and licensed. So all the porn games, for people who don't know, are unlicensed games.
But I'll ask you,
which is ironic because it's like the Bible games and the porno games are both unlicensed. But
I gotta tell you, I love the Bible crap, man. It just fascinates me.
Because
when it comes down to it, it's not such a weird precedent, as I'm sure you're well aware. In Japan, the Catholic faith and the Christian values are huge.
They love it.
It's everywhere.
In terms of like
Breath of Fire is about God, people. It's not about dragons. It's all about friggin' God.
And it's mostly mythology based. I don't think it's not that they're super
It's
Catholic.
not that they're all falling to their knees in the street.
Right. It's they love the mythology.
They love the mythology.
They love it. Iconography. I don't know what the right word is for
just all of it. The lore.
The lore.
The serpent of Rezabohia. I'm trying to remember what Flanders has brought up over the course of years.
Well, yeah, if you watch a bunch of
the flaming serpent of Johassadar.
Yeah, there are anime. There's like animes where they say spells, and at the end they say "Amen" is the power word. And for me, I've always been
let's not get started on the subject of Bible Black. Oh, wait a minute, no, that was a movie.
That's different.
Yes, but kind of the same precedent.
Yeah,
because it was a computer game first.
I'm thinking of. Is there an anime called Black Cross? Am I forgetting that?
Sure.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm willing to accept any anime as existing somewhere under some title.
That's funny. That's fair. But yeah, I've played those games. I've beaten whichever ones are in A through K. So
I've beaten all of the
Bubble Bath Babes. I've beaten Blackjack.
Boom.
And it is like...
If Bubble Bath Babes wasn't enough for you people, most people don't know about the 3 Bs. I think Paul has once again proven himself to be a cromulent individual.
Do you know what the worst part, the best part, too, is that Bubble Bath Babes, the game is actually pretty good. Like, the actual puzzle parts are good.
Well, that was always the hipstery response to even, like, the Puyo games.
Oh, yeah.
And all that stuff.
Yeah.
But, they're cute enough. It's always silly.
Blackjack is terrible because it's just Blackjack with, like, nudie pictures.
Sure.
And there's, like, 3 of them, and you're like, okay, well,
where does it go from here?
And there's nowhere.
Here's what I know, though, man, and it's a related topic. This is Nintendo, who made me suffer through Wolfenstein with green blood shooting out of mutant rats twice.
No,
and now we live in a world where on my virtual console there's all kinds of dirty games.
Oh,
and I have actual hentai that I've bought.
So that is a weird.
Isn't it fascinating that Nintendo came to its senses?
And they're the only ones. Nintendo is the Sony and Xbox are like censoring normal games to appease wackos and pearl clutchers, and Nintendo is standing firmly with anything goes. And I have to applaud that because, again, as going back to my art thing, I am a big people. We are the only country in the world with freedom of speech in our Constitution. We're the only ones. Do not let these people who ban books and games win. Like they're the true monsters of this world.
Correct.
And I think it's funny that Nintendo is the one who champions, like, we're gonna have a weird massage game on our system. All right, good for you.
And ultimately, when you ask yourself, well, if we live in a paranoid world swimming with evil agendas,
it's crazy.
Who do I back? Well, consider the players in this game. You got two guys who are editing everything, and another one that's just, giving us naughty left and right.
Listen,
bubble baths and otherwise.
Larry Flint is a hero because these people made him a hero.
Boom!
We would never remember Larry Flint, ever, if he never... Well, we would, some people would, but we would never remember him forever if he didn't force the issue to the Supreme Court. It's crazy.
You did the New Yorker. Yeah, it's doing what the New Yorker ever did. What? What's that, a booby? I'm guessing the guy who backs Team Booby might be the guy to back as well. There are certain truths here, people. The naughty shield is still a shield that defends all of us.
But yeah, no, I mean, I don't have, like I said, I have friends who make fun of me for my whole Nintendo playing, but because I also play other games and I have a life.
Of course.
So playing them, and you tell Gordon it's 5 minutes. Literally every Nintendo game, it's 700-something games, play them in 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And I will point out, in defense of your project, while it'll certainly be one of those wacky things you never complete.
No. How dare you?
Yeah. Because you're only human, Paul.
I am halfway through. Halfway. That's pretty good. Those strategy games were terrible. And I cried.
Here's the thing. You're on the other side of F.
Yeah.
So you're telling me you sat and beat every Final Fantasy? How long has this project been going?
There's only one. There's
Nintendo. Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're right. The natural inclination, even though, as has come across, because my dialogue has been a little stilted, I might be a little stoned right now.
Yeah.
Was thinking I was lumping a lot of SNES stuff on this. You're right.
Yeah.
I was thinking Nintendo. I wasn't thinking about the console. This becomes much more ownable now.
Yeah.
But now it'll be a little more fun to try to stump the project.
Well,
not that I'd be able to.
And I'm not doing Famicom. You said North America.
Right, because that was my first thing. I said, what about Devil World? And he said, no, not the Famicom. I said, very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a tenable thing. I think this can be done.
And Final Fantasy did take a lot of time.
And it's certainly not the only RPG, but there's a lot less just for the NES.
Well, and and again, the FAQs for the RPG.
Sure, that's going to get you through.
Work.
Yeah.
And I don't use, everybody going crazy too, I don't use save states a lot in RPGs. Almost probably never. The only time I probably would is if I was really paranoid when I made it to the end that I don't want to die and go back.
You're only 5 letters away from any game that contains Princess Tomato. I hope you're ready. The game that you suggested did not exist when we were talking about it off stream.
What game?
I had asked you if you had played the various salad-themed games.
Oh, that doesn't exist. That's not a real game. And I don't know what...
After a lengthy debate, I was able to reveal to you no less than 3 on the NES alone. Now, I believe
I can't wait.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a tomato. There's Tomato Princess of some kind. I'm trying to think of... Oh, wait. Ninja Gaiden's right around the corner. Those are magnificent.
Oh, I mean,
Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2.
M's. There are a lot of M games. Mm-hmm. I know that's going to be because Mega Man's got 7. I beat a lot of Mega Man games before emulation, so I'll breeze through those.
Okay, but you are replaying every game.
No, not skipping. No.
That's brave.
No. Because most games I've played are, except for Final Fantasy and what's another one? Star Tropics. Those are pretty long, but every game I've played and beaten as a kid are are easy enough.
That's the kind of last thing I'll bring up on the Nintendo point is Star Tropics.
I love that game. I love that game so much.
It's one of my favorite games ever made.
It's an NES property, and all they do is hurt us by not doing more.
Paul,
of them.
I'm going to ask it, and then I may have to embrace you. It'll be heartbreaking and heartwarming. You beat the sequel too, right?
Oh, so here's the worst. This will break your heart. I never played the sequel.
Oh no!
So I'm looking forward to that.
Let me tell you this, my brother.
Is it good?
that Star Tropics 2 Zoda's Revenge.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Oh man.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, I
loved them both. Big thumbs up.
Yeah. All you mother people should all play Star Tropics and get and then get mad
Amen.
and then get mad at Nintendo for a whole other reason.
Welcome to what would have been your other favorite game. Star Tropics is so friggin' neat.
It's very cool.
Imagine Earthbound and Zelda had a baby.
Yeah. And it's more actiony.
Yeah.
It's more actiony.
And the action is puzzle-based, but it's obvious, like...
Oh, you're still killing things, too.
No, very much so.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, kill this guy here to trigger this to make this happen.
Right.
In a very, like, understanding what triggers a Zelda secret door to open.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. And Paul, this is just for you, baby.
Yeah.
The plot of the second one, Zoda's dead. His allies, his little servants, are gathering his genetic material to regrow him from his pieces.
Oh.
That's right. It's the ultimate regrown dead
I
corpse
love
returns
that.
as the villain. One of our favorite tropes in all of storytelling.
I'm telling you, if I ever get the chance to write any comic, I'm gonna figure out a dead person.
Oh, dude!
And piece
I have so
him
many
back
stories about
together.
things flowing into Darkseid's body and then puppeting the stone body.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
I
no, it's
love
good.
that kind of thing. Voodoo bringing back dead characters, magnificent.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best storytelling elements of comics. That why Blackest Night is my favorite crossover, which I think I've talked about. I think Infinite Crisis is better in terms of getting everybody involved.
Sure, but Blackest Night was your favorite.
Blackest Night is the best narrative. That's a beginning, middle, and end.
Best crossover. You know what? Okay, we've now changed gears here. Is that the best crossover? I must now run it through the cathometer.
Yeah, I would say Blackest Night.
Now, obviously, I was getting a little shaky there. I zoned out a little bit. You have my apologies, but I am now just razor focused on this possibility. I was a little blathery. It's true. That's why I said, "Oh no, Paul, tell us more. Tell us more of your Nintendosities." But now, no, this is a task I take with great aplomb. No, my favorite crossover of all time, which is different, I will admit.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing to answer because my spiritual answer is The Last Laugh. I'm sure that surprises you.
That is, I think everyone hates that answer.
Yeah, and it's a tough answer to give because the art is... I don't like to be that guy. The art is so uneven that the summary of all of it comes out, with some sort of like, what's my immediate emotional response? The S word. There, I've said it. But there was really good art in it. That definitely killed it for me from ever being the best of all time.
Yeah, but it's also...
But it's my favorite.
That's such a weird crossover gimmick. So
for those who don't know...
Yeah.
Paul, tell the people what the editor's summary of The Last Laugh was.
So, and for everybody who doesn't know, a crossover, the crossovers we're talking about are event crossovers.
Like
they're company
the reboot events that we've discussed quite a bit in the past few episodes.
So Joker's Last Laugh was supposedly, and I don't want to get added by people here who know comics, Chuck Dixon got approval to kill the Joker. So his parting, I guess... his response to DC not wanting that to happen, saying, I'm going to Jokerify a bunch of characters. And you now will have a bunch of different Jokers at the end of this crossover you guys to play with.
That pitch alone won my heart.
Yeah.
Because the idea of taking a bunch of Z-grade villains, like a bunch.
Yes, yeah.
And then leaving the back door of suggesting that it's even more than this because it was a whole prison and we're not naming every single one of them.
Right. It could be anybody off panel.
It's the most simple, brilliant, cake and eat it kind of thing. You can always have another Joker showing up. You can have teams of Jokers. You can use this. And the characters they chose to be the core, it was a very smart group of faces, like Warp, Simon. These were interesting enough characters who have played out.
Right.
And instead, you made them continue.
The last, and so apparently legend has it, that at the very last minute, DC got cold feet, said, no, we're not letting you do that, and it pretty much destroyed the entire crossover.
Yeah.
Not to be spoilery, it's been believed that the end of that was Joker basically does a fake out, and in terms of he wants it to look like he killed Tim Drake. And at the end of the series, Nightwing, Dick Grayson kills the Joker. That's how he died. He was terminal anyways, though. He had like cancer.
He had a tumor, yes.
Yeah, or a tumor. And that was going to be the big, like, besides having all the Joker villains, you had a on the outs Nightwing.
That was going to become this erroneously believed to be lacking element of Nightwing that everyone seems to exist.
Right.
Because Nightwing is, in my mind, an almost perfect character.
Yeah.
To start
and
with.
And he was going to be cleared criminally because the argument was like cops
But
killed.
instead it would be the end of his bond to the Bat family.
Correct. I don't know. I'm wondering if that is what soured them, and knowing what I know from how comics work.
Yeah.
Getting the approval for Joker to die, I can't see them at the last minute say no. It's probably when the script for 4 came in and they were like, oh, we can't do this.
Yeah.
And then it changed.
The only thing I didn't like was to symbolically represent like throngs of villains. He made up a ton of villains.
Oh, he did, yeah.
No.
In the raft, right?
But,
Before, yeah.
And one of them in particular became the Joker's second in command, was this little fellow named Rancor. And he was an emotional parasite kind of character and a Nazi. And it was my understanding he was going to be like the primary Joker coming out of things.
Yeah, Chuck Dixon talks about it. Someone was supposed to be the primary Joker. It wasn't going to be like there were going to be groups.
I'm pretty sure I remember hearing it was Rancor, which is his second in command.
We never see him again, right?
As far as I know, he's never been used again.
Yeah.
Most of the villains that were made up for that series weren't ever used again.
Yeah.
There are weird continuity problems and weird story beats that just feel unedited.
Well,
Some stuff with Chemo, for example. And then at the end, of course, it all falls apart because by then, someone who had been approved and this thing's going out midstream is being called back, and it shows.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Now they tried to give it to him a little in that Nightwing does get faked out, and so he does
kill him, but then Batman resuscitates.
Comes and he resuscitates.
Resuscitates.
Making the entire series mean nothing. But all of the beats that took there, and at the core, the idea of the Joker thinks he's going out, he feels there should be a crisis level event to accompany that, and just how he does build his event out of nothing, that's the kind of story I love. I love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that it focuses on not deep cuts, but characters that haven't been used in a mainstream way. So, for example, a lot of edgelord bullshit stories have come out that have used the multi-man character as a villain.
Yeah.
So to see him used in a fun mainstream supervillain way, cool. That puts a toy back in the toy box. It was also the case with Mr. Mind to some degree, and with a few of the other characters that were front and center in the throngs.
Yeah.
It was like, that's the kind of event I dig. When all is said and done, we are no fewer characters than we had going in. We have more now. And maybe we've redefined some relationships and done some world building in the process. And that's why I dug it so much.
That's fair, but you have so many better.
Like what? Extant?
No, listen.
No.
I'm a very
0 Hour sucks.
I love 0 Hour.
No, smelly suckers.
I will admit it is not
for jerks.
It is not like. But you have Blackest Night, Infinite Crisis. Those are narratively fine.
Best is the other question. It was favorite.
Oh, okay. Favorite.
The best crossover of all time. Is a far harder thing to go down, but I'm ultimately always going to stand with Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a good answer.
It's
a good answer.
It's perfectly told, and I offer this whenever anybody offers. I don't know how to get into DC. I feel that if you just give 2 seconds to explain what this book is about, that this was the DC universe going into the modern day.
Yeah.
A series of alternate worlds on which any number of different versions of these superheroes lived. And this was a day on which a villain attacked all of them at once. That's all anybody should need to read that book. If you need more than that, I'm worried for you. You probably shouldn't be on your own. And I'm here to tell you there are people that can help you.
I will say that is my major criticism too. And I'm not playing gatekeeper. And I'm sorry if it sounds that way. But like if you need to know like Speed Saunders' life story to read a crossover with
you might have some problems,
you got some problems because it's not necessary.
It is a microcosm for the entire spirit of collecting and following continuity.
Like when you read a novel, it doesn't start with every character's backstory. Like, and I'm not trying to be a dick, but like, you don't see this in movies or novels or video games. But for comics, everyone wants to be like, what's the who's Rawhide Kid? I need to know his entire backstory
Right, but
before
see,
I
that's
can
the
read
point.
this. And
That's
I'm
what I
like,
mean about it
why?
being that microcosm for the entire collecting of comics.
Yeah.
Because, like, you look through Crisis and you get to a character like Will Magnus. All right, if Will Magnus is interesting to you, you do the research, you find out a little bit about him. The best form that can take is to collect the books or to read the books.
And I've said this ad nauseum.
But you don't have to.
The internet or Wikipedia did not exist when I was a kid.
Correct.
And the internet was born when I was a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe not a teenager, maybe when I was in middle school. But like I wasn't widely accessible till I was a teenager. You literally, if you're reading a comic and it's like, who's Bloodsport? You just type in Bloodsport on your Google machine, and it'll tell you all you need to know about
As opposed to
Bloodsport.
us, you'd go through a book and, Mr. Fear, that's a cool name.
Who is this? Yeah,
How
yeah.
will I ever find him? Then one day you stumble on an editor's note on a panel that says, recounted from Daredevil number 139. So then the next con you go to, you're not being motivated by the ever-changing, narratives of key issues or other such, or just even filling in gaps in a run. It was, now I want to do some research. Let me buy that issue so I can find out something about Mr. Fear.
You would hope that Wizards or Comic Buyer's Guide or someone would actually do like what are the top 10 Daredevil villains?
Right.
And you're like, oh man, Mr. Fear's in this.
This is what was involved to just learn who a character was.
Yeah, it's...
So that you could get an overall appreciation of the hero, who may or may not ever even fight them again.
Speaking of Zero Hour, like, do you
So
think
Crisis did that so beautiful.
when I read Zero Hour, I had no idea who Extent was. Or, I mean, I didn't know who Monarch was, or Wave Rider, or any of those people. But I loved it.
And
I loved it.
not only did you love it, you found your way to each of those characters, and then found them, and
Yes.
loved them on a whole other level.
Yeah, people get too...
I want it made easy for me. I'm very weak in my brain meat.
Yeah.
There's too much of that going on now, people. You have Wikipedia. That should be able to answer any question you have.
And I think DC, I mean, this is our argument with DC and Marvel. DC has more characters that they'll just randomly throw in, which
Correct.
is cool, but they won't explain anything. Marvel will keep the same pool of, like,
Generally, yes.
Spider-Man only has 30 villains, even though he has
Right.
1,000.
Right, right.
Those type of things.
That's why men of great virtue, with names like Scourge, exist to clean up those thousands of forgotten concepts.
But they're all back, baby, in
Yes, they are.
Hobgoblin guys. But yes, I will say that
No one can die now. I love it.
I do recommend. You said Crisis and Infinite Earths, but any crossover.
I think it is the best of all time.
Any crossover in general. If you hear the pitch, if that sounds neat to you, pick it up, because everything will be explained. You don't need to know what Iron Man has been doing for the past 70 years.
What am I telling?
Iron Man is in this story. You're done.
Everybody that walks into the store and asks, "Oh, what would you recommend?" I tell them the same thing. You have two crossover series taking place right now. In our case, it's Axe, Avengers, X-Men,
And Dark
Eternals,
Crisis.
and Dark Crisis. That is the best place to start. One way or another, as we talked about during the reboots episodes and event episodes, it's just that. It's that right now, this is the flashpoint of everything going on in every book in spirit. This is the time to step in. Then you start here. Okay, who are all these characters? I didn't care for these Eternals, but I really like these X-Men. And as obvious as that might sound, it's not apparently obvious to a lot of people.
No, and
that's where the strength of the crossover lays.
And that's why they do crossovers. I mean, we do DC didn't do a ton of crossovers, but when we did crossovers, obviously it was for sales, but it was also a good way to get people to look at the book. Because after a crossover ends, you have a jumping on point.
Right.
You're like, here's Batman at the end of whatever. And now you could get, like, this is him at the end of Nightfall.
And that's the mistake,
or
I think.
Or something.
I think that's the mistake, without throwing any specific sass. I won't need to. Marketing-wise, is the answer shouldn't be, so here are 14 new series. It's no. This is what we got out of here. Here are 2 new series. Now, if you dug the Batman you saw, he's the Batman you'll see on the other side of this.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm talking more about, like, established
No,
books.
and that is exactly what you're talking about. I bring this up in reference to the fact that there were some relatively recent major events that may have involved metal. They might not have. I don't know. I don't want to throw any specific shade. A metal of alien origin, perhaps. I don't know.
Right.
Where instead of just saying, okay, this mattered, we'll now see seismic waves through the actual monthlies, It was, no, it happens in this curated bubble. Here are 6 books. 6 books that may break your heart.
Did anything even spin out of that? Nothing, right?
Well, out of the most recent, no.
No, yeah,
not
I
out
didn't
of
think
Death
so.
Metal.
I didn't
But out of
think
the
so.
original metal, it was the Terrifics.
Oh, those were all the damage.
The Damage was the
Yeah.
next. And some book about a hit person, a silencer.
Silencer.
Something about Dr. Mist. It was called, like, The Immortal People.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Yeah, it's something.
And then the
like-
book that I actually thought was pretty swell, a little book called Doomed, about a boy who became a Hulk-like Doomsday.
Silencer was the one everybody liked the best because it was an original character and it was.
Didn't J.R. draw it or
Yeah, he
look at it or
co-created
something? Oh, there you go.
co-created, yeah.
There you go. And the Terrifics would have been fine, but it was obvious that it got
Completely
interfered with out of control,
Yeah,
right?
it completely does make sense in any continuity.
The pitch was, okay, it's a pastiche of the FF. And, okay, now there's some gross crap about the dark multiverse bonding them all like a umbilical
Oh,
cord.
yeah.
Okay, I can deal with that. Okay, why is Tom Strong here? What's happening?
Oh,
Where did my
yeah.
book go?
Yeah.
It was very sad. That was the closest I came to enjoying any of that flotsam. But yeah, that kind of stuff is grungy, but when are you most excited now to go forward and read about X-Men after an event in which they've just saved everything?
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
I tell people all the
that
time.
potency is worth following.
People, when I point them to House of X and Powers of X, the trade, they're like, yeah, but what happened before that? I have to look at them and be like, decades of continuity. This
Boom.
is the place where they explain anything you're reading.
Right.
They are explaining.
Right.
This is the pickup point. And now, we're 3 years into this experiment. And, I will say, I know some people don't like hearing there are 3 years of backstory, but you have a trade or issues if you want to find issues to pick it up.
If that matters enough, if you feel as
Yeah.
though your enjoyment of this thing is going to be incomplete, there are trades, just as you
Right.
say.
If you don't want to, me personally,
And if
for
you
anything-
really, if you're looking to collect, and that's what these people, often say, yeah, I want to collect. Well, then you now know what you can at least be collecting.
Yeah.
Those past 3 years.
Right,
You know?
correct.
And you
Yeah.
do that at your own pace. Yes, I think we are of singular mind in this matter. And I was also surprised that we are rather close to being of singular mind on another recent development in the world of the genre.
Oh, do tell.
And that, of course, is our reaction to the She-Hulk series on the Disney+.
I think I liked it a little bit more than you.
I think you might have even liked it significantly more than me. But
significantly
yes,
more.
but that is, I would point out, a whole hell of a lot more than I expected to enjoy this thing. And ultimately, I did, I guess, enjoy it. I wouldn't give it a thumbs down. I give it a shrug and say, yeah, I'll watch the next one.
Well, it was.
I know Matador eventually shows up.
Well, I
But there's a lot of positives.
Yeah, I liked it. The CGI I thought was cleaned up. They changed her model enough to not look like Uncanny Valley thing.
Yeah.
I
still wanted more from her facial animations.
I get that.
But that's just because I think I'm chasing the sexualized version of the character from the Burn Run.
Oh, which we're never
going to get.
No.
So I
that's-
just kind of have to let that go.
I think I will say, and this is Hollywood, so I don't care. It's the writing was very lazy. Very lazy writing.
See this? This is one of the many things we do agree on.
I was almost shocked and annoyed almost that these people are like writing like very surface level stories.
That
It's not
conversations between Jen and the Hulk. And count me among those that don't particularly care for whatever nebbish Hulk is supposed to be.
This isn't Smart Hulk.
Beta
no.
Hulk, whatever the hell you want to call him.
So in the 90s, the Hulk became smart.
Yes.
But it wasn't this like nerdy Bruce Banner smart, or he
This
was like
soft wounded
right.
Hulk.
It's like, imagine if you were a skinny person, which I am, and then you become like a buff monster dude
who's still identifying as some sort of superhero and Avenger, by the way.
He's acting more like he's wearing muscle shirts. He's a little bit more I don't know, he's acting more confident.
Right.
There's not this like nebbish Mark Ruffalo like,
Right.
well, Jen, you got to do this because it's none of that stuff.
It feels cloying and gross.
Right. It's not
But
great.
All of their scenes together, when you look past the actual point of delivery and you're just really thinking about what's being said, this is the dialogue from the most tired, unfunny sitcom ever conceived of.
It's not great. And There's a lot of like weird.
There's no real depth of plot. The inciting incident that brings about her transformation into the She-Hulk is stupid enough.
Yes.
That I had to lead with such an unkind, like, yeah, it was good enough. I liked it. Because, yeah, it was that bad to me.
Yeah.
And I suppose we could just spoiler it so we can talk about it.
Oh, yeah,
but,
spoiler.
Spoiler. Instead, in the comics, of course, Jen was shot by gangsters, and an emergency blood transfusion from her cousin Bruce would save her but turn her into the She-Hulk. In the books, they're driving and they crash into a spaceship that's on the road. And they get hurt.
She cuts her arm.
There's a little cut on her arm, and some of his blood splashes into the cut.
I'm pretty sure it's a drop of blood.
Well, this has been discussed at great length, that it's just like the tiniest little picayune drop.
They try to save themselves.
The ship flies away.
Right.
This is the end of She-Hulk's origin.
Yeah.
Do not... I'm not going to wager my eternal soul on this, but I really don't think there's ever going to be any address of that ship or its purposes unless it's a post-credit stinger joke after the last episode of the series.
I'm an optimistic person.
Yeah.
I think we are going to get an explanation.
You think that there's alien plottings afoot?
Yeah, maybe not at the end of the series, but I think we're getting something somewhere soonish.
A stinger
Soonish.
Credits is it for me.
No, I think it's plot.
I think it's that cowardly and dumb. I think it was that much of a gag, but we'll see.
I've heard
the jury's out. I'm not willing to bet my soul.
I've heard some internet chatter or opinions that the reason he didn't give her a transfusion was because of ableist stuff. Like she couldn't consent to getting contaminated blood.
Well, we'll just stay all together out of this.
But you could stay conscious and just be like, I don't want to die. And this is from a right. This is Paul's writing hat on. She's just conscious, and she says, I don't want to die. I don't care. And then he makes the decision. That's it. You're done. Like it's very weird.
No one's rights were taken from them.
No, it's I get trying to be like, you want to iron out a corporate thing, but man, that's lazy. Lazy.
I'm with you. And beyond that, the show was cousins. They drive into the side of a ship. It's very sad. There's a splash of blood to help her get through it. They go to a barn, and that was the end.
Yeah, I mean, their dialogue is fun.
Is it?
Yeah, they're fighting. I think it's fun.
No, there are a few sequences that are actually very funny. There's a whole ongoing bit about Captain America and some other jazz. Right. That's very good.
I will say that the courtroom scene devolved into like a Power Ranger scene.
I don't even know what I saw.
My wife looked at me and like, what just happened? I'm like, they rushed this? I don't know.
Look, that actress is a magnificent creature. I don't know what the hell is going on with whatever this Titania, whatever it is supposed to be.
Yeah, that is another...
I don't know. Up is down, left is right. This is... I don't know. It's difficult to start talking about any of it without potentially saying something weird or broken.
It's another Chinese Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
Grandma.
Yes.
Like, that's what it is. Because it's no longer that character. Just from the... first two words.
If you took that actress and put her in a costume that in some way was even the same color as Titania's, maybe I could start to think that there was some connection between them.
You're just looking at it like you're now just taking names. I mean, Marvel and DC, more Marvel have been doing that for a while. Just taking names in a hat and, whatever.
I still do not forgive that the security guard in the first season of Daredevil was named Frank Farnham. Frank Farnham, of course, being the Masked Marauder.
Right.
I refuse to accept that version of the characters, sirs.
And this includes I
want my Masked Marauder.
Even my views of someone like Ezra Miller. Forget all the craziness. He was a terrible Barry Allen.
Correct.
He didn't look like Barry Allen.
Correct.
He didn't act like Barry Allen.
I had this conversation just the other day with someone.
Ezra Miller is the easiest person to point to be like, yes, it's that is not a good representation of Barry Allen.
Right.
That also means that this actress playing Titania is not a good representation of Titania.
Look at somebody who got it right. We decide to bring a character who has been beloved by man, woman, and child since the 1930s, Pepe Larrigo, out of retirement.
Oh, my God.
And we found a proper actor to carry Pepe's laurels, his giant spear, and his significant coral shell armor. So let all villains be as Pepe Larrigo stand Hollywoodland.
Let me make a prediction.
Yes.
Is that we'll never see anything. If we see Namor again outside of Black Panther, you'll never have Atlantis ever brought up, or any of the Mesoamerican stuff will never be brought up.
You know, that does. They got a lot of talk this past weekend with various customers. I am curious to see just what the legacy is of some of what I think are the more, they would have been easily telegraphed moves of the Marvel Cinematic Universe of the past, but now that everything's a go-go, I'm getting the sense that maybe we're starting to introduce stinger scenes and limbs that have not been premeditated. So what am I babbling about?
Yeah, what are
We
you
start
talking
with Thor. I don't know that we're ever going to see that Hercules anywhere.
No, I don't believe that. I know what you're.
You know what I'm starting to say?
They don't waste money like that.
No, I didn't think so.
They're not going to.
But if they didn't waste money, quote, like that, how did Thor get made? Because from stern to shaft, it's an abomination that missed its purpose.
Right. But again, I don't think they've ever, even the weird stingers that don't go anywhere, are addressed. So
I
you know
don't
what
know.
I mean? Like,
I know exactly what you mean, and I would have agreed with you 100%. But I'm saying I'm at like 89% now. I'm worried that we might be getting to the point where things have winnowed to where that maintenance of the continuum, as it were, is no longer a priority.
Well, what are the ones from Phase 4? Yelena, we've already seen her hunt down Hawkeye in the Hawkeye series.
Okay.
So that stinger is pretty much
okay.
done.
We have the
know
Ebony Blade and
Black Knight,
Black Knight,
which was going to be in Blade. So that's going to be
the Eternals that
the
were
Eternal ones
dragged off by a Celestial.
That one we have no idea. And also, there's a pinging. There's 2 stingers in Eternals. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm misremembering. Shang-Chi has a pinging coming from the bracelets, which there's no idea what that is. People are saying it was the Celestials. I'm pretty sure they've already said no.
I
it
was
wasn't.
thinking your Kamala Khan.
No, they've said it's none.
It's not
they've
Kamala
said
Khan,
it's not Kamala. It's not Celestials.
I'll just have to pray doubly hard to make it real then.
Yeah. So I mean,
I want Kamala Khan to be the central core of everything that happens.
God, I hate you.
Because she's America's favorite character, Paul. Obviously.
Listen, I have nothing against Kamala Khan.
I collected the book for a little while.
So mad.
It wasn't very good.
I was so mad she was a mutant and that X-Men riff came up.
I know you were. That's why I brought it up and mocked you just a few moments ago.
Yeah, it was
very sad.
I think you're
Paul, first question: will she be an X-Men when the X-Men movie comes out?
If they're smart, no.
Well, you say if they're smart, no.
Fascinating. Yeah, because she shouldn't be an X-Men. She's an Avengers, and those all the branding. This is my editor marketing hat. Kamala Khan is an Avenger. Like that is like a full stop. If you want to make her a mutant, whatever, you're gonna make this lip service that she was originally supposed to be a mutant. Well, I wish I could go back in time and do X, Y, and Z. Like it's all like that's not a real excuse.
Well, Paul, then you don't want to join my special cult that believes that Axe, the current crossover.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait to hear this.
Its payoff will just be that Kamala has officially transitioned to mutant at the end of the series.
That's fine. I don't think and this is going to do a weird, remember when the Beast was an Avenger for a while?
Sure.
And he was in the Avengers office was like, you can't touch Beast.
Right.
That will mean absolutely nothing. Kamala Khan will still be an Avengers character.
Correct. We have a fella named Wolverine who has set all the precedents we need to set.
Right.
Yeah, all joking aside, I definitely do feel that it was struck hard to be suggested that she is the first capital M mutant in the Marvel Universe.
It was beyond.
I don't think there's any misinterpretation there. This is a chat we've had hither and yon.
And her fans are pissed.
Of course they are.
Her fans are angry. Her real fans are angry.
And I hope that our conversations about this and related topics do carry this. Our not enjoying that is never meant to be any kind of suggestion that so it should not be this way. It's just our opinion, right?
Yeah.
Because we also offer right alongside that, okay, so then understanding this is the reality, how do you lean into the reality? What do you do with this? And I really think you are safe from her showing up in X book or X movie because she is going to be a part of capital T, capital M, the Marvels.
Yeah.
So as they brand build, that's always the direction they're going to shove her in, right? You have another movie coming to that extent.
Monica Rambeau is going to have to carry that whole movie.
You think?
Yeah, because nobody likes Carol Danvers. Kamala's fans are pretty split in terms of, and it was, unfortunately, again, numbers guy speaking, Ms. Marvel was the least watched Disney Plus show, so they have that handicap going into the movie.
Sure.
I don't know, and we don't know what the plot of this movie is. You know, we don't. They're gonna be fighting.
It can only be gold.
It's gonna be the three of them fighting a moonstone that we've never, in no way, shape, or form will look like Moonstone.
God, you're right.
So, and again, I don't want to pick on if it is Moonstone because they've ruined other villains like Crimson Dynamo and the Melter and all these other people. But I do think them saying that this is the end of Phase 4. And they know this. They need this movie to make $1 billion because of the Black Panther legacy.
Right.
I'm 90. If I was a betting man, I would bet that Doctor Doom shows up in this movie.
Yeah,
or a hand that count whatever.
That's exactly what I've been saying, brother.
That's gonna be in
There's
this movie.
no way
There's
the
no
stinger
way.
or conclusion is not going to be the realization that Namor was duped, who manipulated and really created this situation. We see a throne at an angry view screen. We see a goblet shatter in a gauntlet. We see a gauntlet
Or
pound
whatever.
on a chair.
Yeah.
Yes.
That movie will go up a whole star for me, no matter what. You know, like
let that be our shared gift to humanity. A bonus star for Pepe Larigo Swims the Blues. Ladies and gentlemen.
So ends another episode of Infinite Geek Talk. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to find the Rat's Nest Studios on Facebook for news, updates, and to keep the conversation going. And don't forget to rate and review the show to help spread the word. Infinite Geek Talk is brought to you by Infinite Heroes Comics, Cards, and Collectibles in Watertown, Connecticut, and Gorilla Valley Games. Infinite Geek Talk is a Rat's Nest production, recorded and engineered by Rich Johnson in the Rat's Nest Studio.